Practicing peace, I'm not going to lie, it's going to take time, patience with yourself, and consistency. No matter what you've heard, true peace can only come from within. Oyegumei speaks about going within to calm the storm that's going on around or inside of yourself. Peace is actually a way of life rather than a one time thing. So, today we're going to be looking at 6 simple ways that you can start practicing peace. For the best strategies and tips on finally living the life of your dreams with the least resistance through making the right tweaks to your mindset and daily habits, be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell to get my latest uploads every week. Let's start with tip number 1, loving yourself. This is indeed one of the most profound wisdoms that can abundantly nourish your life when applied correctly. It stems from the understanding that you cannot give what you don't have. The relationship you have with yourself will influence all other relationships you will have, be it with family, friends, your significant others, or strangers. It's impossible to love others well without learning to love yourself first. It's also impossible for others to love you or treat you as you ought to be treated until you learn to take the lead and decide to love yourself first. Tip number 2, think before you act. Impulsive behavioral patterns often have serious negative consequences. When angry people often say they don't mean what they just said because it was just anger or they're frustrated. Basically, we know they're projecting their frustration or they're latching out or there's insecurities or basically you're triggering them. So it could be a myriad of things. We just don't know, right? This can result in costing everyone involved their peace and so much more, especially resentment. Rather than acting on the urge to immediately react when things happen, it's wise to take some time. Give yourself time to understand the situation better before reacting. So take a step back, breathe, think, and ask the important questions to ensure that you're understanding what's being communicated to you correctly. Okay? Then you can respond from a place of maturity. Tip number 3, resolving conflicts with a cool head. Otoruba Mehi speaks about gaining the strength to disconnect from environments, people that are emotionally draining you and causing you stress on all levels. Conflict, sad to say, is inevitable. No matter where you go, who you meet, if you try to hide under a rock, in the sea, it doesn't matter. Like Sebastian the Crab, it's going to happen. So, running away from it or pretending that nothing phases you is a recipe for anxiety, depression, and especially peace deprivation. So, take the time to learn how to peacefully address conflict with mutual respect. Choose a suitable time and location to do so. Speak from your heart with logic, love, and consideration when addressing certain things. Listen compassionately, attentively to not only the verbal communication, but also the non-verbal cues. When someone else is sharing or that other person is sharing their side of the story. Okay? Then end the conversation with a healthy consensus and way forward for both parties involved. It's okay to agree not to disagree. Okay? Learn to practice sincerely also apologizing, taking accountability for your part, taking accountability if you assumed or were wrong in that type of scenario. Okay? Tip number 4, live in your truth. Otura Mehi states that if you don't know your worth, you'll start to attract people and situations that will hold you back and have you in bondage, right? Cultivating a high level of healthy self esteem, basically meaning holding yourself to a higher standard or regards, and gaining an ironclad self confidence, aka trusting yourself more that you'll make the right decisions concerning the direction that you want your life to take. It's going to take balls, it's going to take sweat and tears, but it's all worth it in the end. Why, you might ask? Because with upbringing, past trauma, societal pressures, etc., you'll have to do some heavy lifting to unravel the years of beliefs and habits that have been keeping you in an undesirable loop in life. Then you'll come to a place where you're going to relearn what your core values are, who you truly are as a person, and who you want to become. So basically, you'll be initiating yourself to yourself. Initiation in this sense means to begin again, like Ifa says, but not with the same crap. And this is also mentioned for those who are initiated in Otura Mehi, yeah, and also in Otura Mehi. Okay? So to begin again, not with the same crap. Okay? Wholeness and peace are attained when we become enlightened about who we truly are and why we're here, what we're here to learn, how we're to evolve. It is hence important to take the time to acquire that knowledge from yourself to be at peace and content in this life. Every created thing has a manual, meaning physical things, right? And also spirituality, because that's where you get the path of Lukumi, Ifa, and other spiritual modalities where initiation in some form or not is required. It's basically the divine or your elevated spirit guides or ancestors are giving you the manual to you, Lucy Progreso, kind of like when a very competent and well seasoned Lucy Progreso, well seasoned astrologer charts out your map. That's giving you a manual, your ita, to whom you are and why you incarnated at this time and what you're here to learn and what you're here to accomplish and certain obstacles and taboos, etc., etc., etc. So, to know it well, that certain thing, and to use it to its fullest potential, to the best of its ability, one has to read the directions and or wing it, which can be hard, right? In order to use that thing properly, in order to utilize it for what it was truly made for, right? If we can easily do that for our phones, laptops, home appliances, why can't we do it for ourselves? See, it's funny because Ifa says in Oshe Tura that if you don't know how your world, and I'm using world in imaginary quote marks, how you call it? It slipped my mind, sorry. You can imagine it, right? Quotation marks, whatever. How your world functions, basically your unique rhythm and flow, what works for you and how that works for you, you'll think that God has jokes. You're gonna think that God's that mean fat kid with the magnifying glass. What movie was that? Lucy Progreso. That was Jim Carrey. I'll get back to you on the movie, but you gonna think God got jokes. Yeah, you gonna think he real funny. Or she, for those of us who know. Okay, let's move on. Number 5. Find ways to unwind. The Odu Owanrimehi states that you mustn't allow past nouns, situation, people. When I say nouns, that's what I'm referring to. I know a noun is a person, place, or thing, to trigger you into thinking, speaking, or acting the way that you used to, the old you. A new way of reasoning and thinking has to be implemented. And I want to insert a side note here because I do find it amusing at times. And I would catch myself in the past um, when used to say, oh, she or he is trying to get me back to the old me. You don't want to go back to the old you. Why? So that means you haven't healed. And I had to ask myself these very honest questions. Why would you allow someone else to get you back to the old you? Why do you want to be petty? Why? What are you gaining? Are you getting more ache? Good ache? Are you gaining more mature? Like, what is this solving? And I would say this to myself, not the other person, not the other person, to myself. I've gotten real comfortable, even if I slip up and get caught up or swept up, Lucy Progreso, in a moment when I'm all calm and the storm has passed. I'm like, okay, what could we have done differently here? And my spiritual team has that little powwow with me, Lucy Progreso. What could we have done different? Why did you let yourself get swept up in that energy? So that means we still need to work on this aspect of yourself and dig deep. And when I say dig deep, that looks like to keep asking yourself the question, why is this still triggering you? What are you still holding on to? Right? Because Oturupame in that Odu, the holy mothers that sit in the south, the bearer, says, formulate more questions, Ifa says, to get more answers. So you ask the universe, your spiritual team, that question, whether out loud or in your journal or within yourself, the answer will appear to you. Whether it's another person, whether it's a song, whether it's a book, whether it's a commercial, the answer will come to you. You don't have to go really like, oh, was that the answer? Oh, was that? You'll know. They'll make it very clear. It's especially if you say, please make it crystal clear and specific. Me personally, you could take, some of my tips. That's what I'm here for, right? I would say, please make it clear to me. Just speak to me like I'm 2 years old. Speak to me like I'm a little slow. Sorry, Baba. Batala, Baba. Just, just make it clear so that I cannot overthink it or overanalyze it. So I get it. Because knowledge is useless if you cannot apply it to better yourself and better navigate a situation, right? Okay, so let's move on here. That I needed to insert that little side note. Okay. With all that being said, these new way of reasoning and thinking, as we look at the Odu of Owanuimehi, the reversed head, if I calls it reversed head, the Western world calls it paradigm shift. And you also see that for those of you who are familiar with the divination system and sort of spiritual system of the tarot, that would be similar, not the same thing, not the same energy, but similar to the major arcana card, the reversed head. To me, every time I see that card, that reminds me of Owen Remei, and that also reminds me of Odin hanging upside down in the yew tree, I think it is, when it comes to the spiritual system or the spiritual path of the runes, right? To gain wisdom, to be enlightened. So this is what Ifa is saying. So we're getting a universal message through different systems. And I want you as the viewer to chime in the comments to tell me how that type of energy or energy signature or experience applies to you. With I gave you three examples already through Ifa with Owanin Mehi, the reversed head, literally the reversed head, whether it's looking back or upside down, it's still reversed through the spiritual system of and divination system of the tarot with the major arcana, the hangman, and through the system of the runes where Odin was he made a self-sacrifice to hang himself upside down to gain the wisdom of the runes um, through the yew tree. Please correct me if I'm wrong about that. But for my spiritually conscious people, through different paths. Please share because I love to learn about different spiritual paths and how their ancestors see the world as it is or in their time, right? Okay, anyway, the Western world again calls this a paradigm shift. which is consciously deciding to have a fundamental shift in your approach to life. It's getting rid of the wrong perceptions, limiting beliefs, and stereotypes that are like a program that is used to run your life to the extent that it would happen even subconsciously. So you're doing it on automatic, autopilot, Lucy Progreso, right? So we want to replace the hindering and outdated beliefs with more beliefs that are more geared towards adopting a growth mindset instead of a more fixed mindset. See, in certain scenarios, a fixed mindset, Lucy Progreso, is better. But overall, that overarching theme of always in certain cycles of growth, right? We want to have a growth mindset, right? And the ancestors are bringing forth the understanding of different cultures and what our ancestors have, the wisdom they have passed on, where certain cultures do certain things, where with young men or young women when they reach a certain age, certain so-called rituals or rite of passages, Lucy Progreso, are performed for a reason, where there are certain seasons that are celebrated a certain way for a reason. In that sense, that is what requires a fixed mindset, because the moment you, Lucy Progreso, change that in an unpredictable way, or you just, that bloodline or that culture completely cuts certain traditions, there's the word, Lucy Progreso, traditions out, it brings you out of balance and out of alignment with nature. And that's a big disaster, because it runs through your blood, not only through generations and generations, it runs through your blood. And this is what causes the gap or the disconnect in consciousness. Because I would always sit and say, wow, our ancestors were superhuman. They're superheroes. They've accomplished many great things. What happened to us? We share the same DNA. What happened to us? And that's a piece of the puzzle of rejecting or neglecting certain traditions that were passed down. And when I say certain traditions, I'm not talking about those that are religious or spiritually based, or things we assume that are spiritually based or not spiritually based, so to say, which really are, because they bring in a new energy. They shift. Remember, energy is either destroyed, not destroyed, sorry, clear, cancel, delete. Energy is either transferred or transformed. So our elders were always transforming and transmuting energies through certain rites of passages. When we have a baby, we do this, we take certain teas, we take certain baths, we do certain things, we take the umbilical cord, we do this with it, we do that with it. Once you reach a young woman stage, you do this, you do certain things, are done for a reason. And they're not old wife tales or barbaric or superstitions. They have sciences backed behind them. And just because it didn't go through, certain things didn't go through a scientific lab, does not make it not valid. Remember, our ancestors had created great feats and achieved great feats without modern technology. But I'm also, with that being said, clear, cancel, delete, because but they're telling me says that you've canceled what you just said, and I don't want to cancel what I just said because they're all valid points. So, with that being said, there are also things that our ancestors did because of the lack of technology and modern science and research. And that's okay, right? That is totally fine. So there needs to be a healthy balance. Again, nature, the universe is always balancing itself. Ifa is always mending the world. That's why when people get petty with me sometimes, I'm like, I ain't worrying about you. Mm-hmm. Ifa the needle, y'all the knife. I ain't got time for that. Nope, not today, Lulu. Not today. But to get back to it, you always want to Not forget where you came from. Certain traditions need to be held, but we also need to adopt a growth mindset and choose to act from a place of mindfulness and maturity at the same time. Tip number 6. We want to connect with people with the similar ideologies and vibes like yours or like ours, whatever, like mine, like mine's, like Professor Griff would say. Similar to what you would want to experience in life, how you want your life to go, and what type of energies and relationships that you would like to nurture and grow and tend to, right? And experience. Connection is a primary basic human need. Without good relationships with people, life becomes a battlefield and sort of a burden. So it's important to practice a culture of peaceful coexistence when navigating the world through your particular lens. So putting the effort into understanding others and the roles they play in your life and the lessons they also can bring to you for your advancement and your maturity is key. At the same time, you're also adding value and helping them learn certain lessons as well. So it's a give and take um, type of dynamic going on. Now, if they want to not take that lesson or reject it or retaliate, that's on them. That's not you. And most of the time, you can be put in someone's life to help them shift their perspective without both of you knowing, and that's okay. Sometimes rifts happen for a reason, and that's okay. Now you know, okay, this is what I look for, or this is how I handle this situation if it arises again. So, with every experience, you want to extract the lesson, you want to extract the wisdom for it, no matter how minute it might seem. Okay? A life that's lived selfishly or paranoid or you're too guarded, we want to be aware and vigilant. We don't want to be guarded, okay? Because it only haunts you. It creates this anxiety, and that's borderline creating elinini, self-created demons, and we don't want that, right? Because the more energy you put into it, it magnifies, okay? We also want to do good to others as we would want someone to do to us, Master Jesus states. And frankly, that's easier said than done most of the time. I'm not going to lie. I'm like, I treated you with respect and you felt like you wanted to disrespect me or like it was okay. Yeah, my inner New Yorker comes out and it's a wrap. But I'm learning to walk away. Yes, I'm learning that very much. So we're learning together. But it can be done. Do unto others as you would like done unto you can be done with the proper balance. Meaning we don't have to shout, we don't have to yell, we don't have to call names. We just have to make it very clear this is not acceptable. And if we want this dynamic to continue, there are compromises or changes that have to be made. And if those changes and compromises are not implemented, my cutoff game is real strong, and yours should be too. Because no matter how many times you circle back, you're going to get the same response from me because you're not willing to heal for yourself and you're not willing to give me the same respect that I've given you. So this is over, our timeline is done. And that's the mindset that you want to adopt. And even if that same energy comes in a different body, in a different scenario, you know how to halt it and put up those strong boundaries. They don't want to respect them. That's their problem. They're going to have to respect them. Now you have to really put your foot down and become Fort Knox until they get it. Like, hey, we're not doing this. This was not, oh, let me test the waters. They test the waters, you burn them. It's that simple. So, here are some of the main takeaways on today's topic. Number one, love on yourself more. Who better to care for you than you? Learn your dislikes and likes, and also why you dislike certain things and dislike them or like them, right? Find out what your love language is. Okay? Number two, be your authentic self all day, every day. Know what your quirks are. Who are you really behind the mask and the different roles that you play? And when I say mask and different roles, I'm not coming from a place of judging or low vibrational or attacking, because we all have different ways to approach different people in different times and places. That doesn't make us, Lucy Progreso, my ancestors are calling it polyvalent, someone who's multi talented. It's just the way our personality is set up. But while we're doing that, I want you to make sure that you know who you are deep down. Okay? It's just that if we are funny and love to tell jokes, if we're in a corporate setting or a setting that requires more of a serious tone, then we change it up. So we go into serious mode. That is a role. If we want to be discreet in a healthy and positive way, right? Because the Judas is always in the midst. We have to be careful that people don't sabotage the goals that we have if we keep telling everyone what we're planning or what we're going to do. So you have to wear a mask sometimes. Like some of the orishas have masks for a reason. And it gets deeper than that, but we're going to stay on the surface level. They have the mask for a reason. Egungun, Egun has masks for a reason. They're not costumes. They're not to scare away the boogeyman. Sometimes they are, but it's for a reason, to prove my point or to drive home my point. Okay? Just make sure you don't lose yourself, Lucy Progreso, in the process of wearing the mask and changing up the roles. You don't get lost in the shuffle. Lastly, but not least, number three, choose your battles wisely. Look, energy harvesters, aka the energy vampires, are a real thing. Whether they have narc tendencies, whether they are labeled certain other names that I am not legally licensed to say, because I do not practice or have a degree and letters behind my name, you know, in somebody building or something. But we know who they are. They are real. Whether they are cognizant of what that is or have been diagnosed by someone with the three letters behind their name, they are real. And some people just plainly love to get a thrill out of others. And it gives them this high, like an addict, like a besa. I'd be like, ooh, look at a besa. They're not really a besa, but their eyes light up. Rene Descartes says the eyes are the seat of the soul. And for those with spiritual eyes to see, you will see. Oh, you will see. It gets real out here in these streets. You will see. And some of them, their ancestors get real sneaky and hide those type of darker qualities. And that's where you have to be really discerning. Yeah, it gets real out here in these streets. People ancestors will literally hide a monster in a beautiful aura or a beautiful face or a charming, it's not hard to see the monsters behind the pretty people, some pretty people, not all pretty people, or whom society deems as beautiful. The monsters are in people who, yeah, their ancestors try to hide it real quick, and then they'll run up on you real quick. And it's when you get sideswiped, you'll see that, oh, wait, oh, okay. So we want to be very discerning and very stingy with our energy, because they'll eat it up like some cookies. They'll eat them up. Okay, so be mindful and don't feed the flying monkeys. I call them flying monkeys. No matter how loud they yap and bang and scream and make noise. And look, Ifa says, be weary of the coward who lurks around recruiting others to go along with their smear campaign. They will do that too. That's why I said don't feed the flying monkeys, no matter how loud they yap. If other people are going to believe them, even though some of them deserve an Academy Award for their foolery, don't give in like that. Respond in a factual matter. O'Shea Tourist says, speak the truth, tell the facts. Speak the truth, tell the facts. Speak the truth, tell the facts. Those who speak the truth will have the help of the deities. Because God don't like ugly. That's what that means. God don't like ugly. And he really don't. He, she really don't. Ifa also states in Ikamei that words are prayers heard by the divine, always by the citizens in Orun, and that our words can serve as our protection in certain situations. Because in that Odu, you're surrounded by darkness and you don't really see what's going on because you're talking too much, whether in your head or out loud. You're having a fit, you're having a fuss because people are throwing that crap at you and you're not cognizant of it because there's too much going on. So if I saying, hey, you need to calm down and be aware of what's going on. So you need to be mindful when someone tries to provoke you. You need to check in with yourself, Lucy Progreso, before you speak. And in Ikame, he is saying, look, your words, because the light is near the throat chakra, how we express ourselves, not only our words, but how we express ourselves to speak light into darkness. That will serve as your literal protection. Not no ambulance, no herbs, no juju. Your words. For in the Bible it states, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and God was the Word, and He made it manifest. Baba Yogbe, in the same similar thing, the supporter says, speak your will into existence. So different spiritual paths saying similar things for a reason. Okay? So again, be mindful of how you feel before you speak and react at all times. And this is going to take practice. Again, in Obaramei, Ifa says, those who learn to control their emotions becomes gods on earth. That is so powerful. Yes. Thank you, Jesus. Let's move on. In the end, we want to tackle challenges one day at a time. You can't solve all your problems in one day or in one sitting. Dare to celebrate life and honor yourself with the gift of peace. Peace I give you. Peace. Master Jesus said that too. Meaning that Christ consciousness, to become fully aware of your path and who you are as a person, right? Now, it's not going to be all butterflies and bunnies and peaceful all the time, because how are you going to grow in life if it was just bubblegums and fairies, right? If I say it's in the direction of the north, you evolve and become wiser through pain, not through being comfortable. If you're staying in your comfort zone, that produces stagnancy, complacency, and Ifa doesn't support that. Ifa is all about gaining knowledge, understanding yourself, studying nature, becoming accountable for your decisions, the free will, aka this is in the spirituality path. God gave you free will. That's the right to choose. So when you make a decision, that's you choosing. So the universal law of cause and effect, every action has a reaction. So there are different, again, different spiritual modalities, path saying about the same thing, just in different languages. Okay? So the key ingredient here is to learn to get a firm handle, again, on your emotions, energy, emotions, and how it is passing through you, around you, etc. So not just anyone can toss them around all over the place with their antics or when they feel like it. Okay? So now that you've gotten some new tools under your belt, are you ready to apply what you just learned? I really hope so. By the way, I've created a workbook to go along with today's subject to help you get a jump start on creating and implementing real lasting change. You can find your free copy in the description box below. If you need more help, you know where you can find me at themoralcompass.com, where I'll provide more tips and tricks to help you on your personal journey. Also, if you're new here, Please don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. I would love to have you a part of the family, and I'll catch you in the next video. Stay blessed.